somebody bungled this thing of him still in the ship, and now he wasn't there in time to save one of the few people he cares about. Can't imagine that doesn't put a little bit of conflict between him and Luthen at this point.
Andor premiere is here, so we have 2.5 hours of Star Wars to talk about, which is kind of dangerous to 3 people who could probably talk for 2.5 hours about Star Wars. We will not do that on camera. I can't promise that we don't have a cumulative 2.5 hours between messages and stuff, but tonight we're going to tackle, or you're going to be watching this during the daytime. We're recording at night, but we are going to tackle the first 3 episodes of Andor. And now all 3 of us were super excited for Andor, and I think the episodes paid off. And so what we're going to do, which is probably a little bit different maybe than some breakdowns and reviews, definitely different than what I did the other night, we're going to go by themes of this. So we're going to talk, we picked out 4 main themes for this first 3 episode arc. So we're really going to talk each theme, and so each theme will flow through the 3 episodes. I think that gives us the best opportunity to hit everything and not be just bouncing back and forth and back and forth. So that's what we're going to do today. But really quickly, as we always do when we're reviewing Star Wars on Force with Friends, we got to get our episode grades. So we're not going to go like episode 1, 2, 3, just this arc. What would you grade it overall? And now also we're grading, this is essentially a grade against the curve. So like as we continue to grade, we will base it off of just this vacuum of Andor, not like this versus The Mandalorian or, that. Right. It's in its own vacuum. So I'll go in order of the screen. Kevin, what's your grade for the first 3 out of 10?
I would give it a 9.
9.
And honestly, I don't think there's anything I didn't like about it. It's just I feel like I got to leave space in my head for if it gets better. But I mean, I loved it. I didn't have any issues with any of the story or the pacing. I felt like it was really busy, like the jumping back and forth between all the plot points. But I didn't feel like it was busy in a way where it was too hard to follow. So, man, lots of cool stuff to talk about. So I mean, I loved it. And having the full arc was an interesting way to have these 3 episodes. And I don't know that I mind it entirely. I kind of like it. So
I like it. Ryan, what do you got?
I give it a 10, honestly.
10 out of 10.
I know people don't like, for some people, they probably only give like 4 things they've ever seen in their life a 10, but I love Star Wars. I had a good time with it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I don't think 10 has to be perfect. I think 10 is just, it's a testament to the experience you had watching it, right?
I like that. Yeah, absolutely.
So, there's no bad things that happen in these episodes, by the way. Like, no controversial. Like, it's just good story all the way through. Now, here's the deal.
I thought so.
I'm going to get ran out of town by the Andor people. But again, remember, we're in a vacuum. There's going to be, like, the next 9 episodes are probably better. I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. The 3 episode arc, 7.5.
I'm going to say that's lower than I thought you were going to go. I will admit.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, there's nothing bad. I'm just thinking like it's that slow introduction, build up into what's coming. I didn't really care for the forest people that captured Cassian, but again, not like anything negative. I'm just thinking as far as the rest of this season goes, this 7.5 is probably the lowest. It's probably going to be 9s and above from here on out. So again, a 7.5 is not bad. That's above average for this season. That's all. Like we gave the Acolyte stuff, some of it, would hang around 7.5. If we're comparing the 2 there, that stuff would be down like closer to 6.5, and this would be higher type of story. A lot of the Mandalorian stuff would be lower probably than this 3 episode arc. So again, in a vacuum. So let's move into our 4 themes. So our first theme, and I'll just go ahead and tell you what the themes are. So the first theme, we're going to look at Cassian's story, start to finish in these 3 episodes. The second theme, I'm going to go with the Ferrix Survivors. The third theme, we're going to go with Mon Mothma, what she's got going on, like with Luthen and the wedding and all that. And then we're going to talk about what the Empire's up to. So that's where we're building. And then at the very end, we're going to do a prediction about where the next time jump gets us. So that's where we're going. That's one of Kevin's great ideas. So theme 1, Cassian. Cassian Andor, we start off, he's still in a TIE fighter. I thought that was pretty fun. He steals the TIE fighter. He gets out, kind of, a little chase scene. It's a test prototype TIE fighter, which is cool.
Yeah.
Then he crashes on this planet, gets held captive by these like very disorganized rebels, eventually breaks out. We learn he's on Yavin 4, and then he goes and rescues Bix and Will, and not B2, but the other guy that didn't make it. He goes to rescue them, Brasso, on Mina Rao. So that's Cassian's story right there. So let's dive in. Kevin, you can start us off on Cassian.
I mean, it's a great start, right? I mean, that sequence, I'll admit, Cassian's overall story in this arc is not bad, but it's not as super interesting as some of these other things that are going on alongside him. But man, that opening with stealing the TIE fighter was such a great sequence.
Yeah.
I love that they don't call it the TIE Avenger, right? But it kind of looks like the same ship from like the old TIE fighter games, and it's a cool ship, man. I just love like if the Empire really wanted to go all in on a starship, it's going to be pretty awesome. Yeah. Fortunately, they don't care about keeping pilots safe; they're expendable, so
they do not.
So they don't spend a lot of money. But it's such a cool ship, and that escape sequence it was a really great way to kick off the show.
Yeah.
So the first part of Cassian's story I thought was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I liked in that one part where he's trying to get out and the guy's like loading the missile, and it's just like a standoff between Cassian trying to figure out how it works.
Thing won't fire.
And the guy trying to load his missile. And then the way they did it, I was like, are they really going to show this on screen? And so they did it really cool. He shoots it and you just see the hole there. I thought that was an awesome shot just a few minutes into the episode. Ryan, what did you think about that aspect of the story, the stealing the TIE?
Yeah, speaking of that trooper, he was obliterated. That was crazy. And it was, I don't know if you know this, but I found out yesterday, because I've been watching a lot of reviews and podcasts and stuff. That's that's the same trooper, the range troopers from the train sequence in Solo.
How about that? Okay.
Yeah, so they brought it back. Yeah. So I thought that was really cool that they brought it into this. Nice. So that's cool. They didn't give up on Solo stuff, even if it's something
that's awesome,
small like that. But I really liked it. Yeah, just from the opening. I mean, it was a beautiful shot, just beautiful cinematography. And that woman, I wasn't too sure about her. I thought she was evil, but it was cool when you find out that she's actually defecting, and Cassian's just trying to reassure her what she's doing. It's okay. She doesn't have to feel bad, because a lot of people, and I love this with a lot of the current canon, mostly in the books and comics, we're starting to touch on it in movies and shows, but with a lot of the books and comics, they're really showing the inner workings of the Empire, and not a lot of people really know, especially the the cadets and the people that are just graduating the Imperial Academy and being sent off wherever they're going to be. They really don't know the extent of how bad the Empire is. So she was feeling bad once she found out how bad the Empire was. So I really liked how he was assuring her it's okay, don't worry, you're doing a great job. And I like that you brought out, Kevin, the TIE Avenger, that they brought it from the old TIE fighter game. So I thought that was cool. It's a really cool design, very angular.
Yeah, no, it is.
I agree with you. What was her? Was it Nia or Naya or something? What was the girl's name?
Something like that.
I thought that was a really cool sequence too, because I think if you go through this arc, just that moment with Cassian sets him apart from everybody else kind of in this show.
Yeah.
Because I felt like in this arc, there's a lot of people using people, right? For their own purposes, for their own agendas. And I feel like this is still Cassian, maybe a little more influenced by Marva, where he's not just like, hey, you need to get it together or I'm going to die here. Like, he stops.
Yeah.
And his speech to her, honestly, kind of reminded me of like when Brasso's passing along Marva's words to him. Just that message of like, you know what you need to know, you feel what you need to feel. It just felt the same kind of like, listen, you got this type of message. And so I love that we see that in Cassian at the beginning. Unfortunately, I think we're going to see him change from that as this show goes on. But I think it's cool to have that starting point for him where he's a little bit different from a lot of the people around him in this rebellion, and that he's not just like kind of, I'm trying to think of the word in my head right now. He's not completely just over people and helping people and caring about people.
He's
I'm
devoted
glad you
to
pointed that out. I love that moment at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her name is Naya or Nia. Niya. She's the first credit for the episode. She's the first person that pops up.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, he comes full circle because we see that bit of Cassian at the beginning of Rogue One, but then, he finally has a change of heart when he knows how serious it all is. And then, so we might get ups and downs with him, but it'll probably get worse before it gets better.
I thought this one little arc, or just this little portion of it, like, I thought that was a good starting us off with the action portion that like you're that's the most of the action you're going to get for a little while. And so I wasn't expecting going into Andor season 2 them starting with like stealing something, having a little miniature dogfight essentially in space, a chase scene. That wasn't my expectations for this show going in. So like it starts off and gets you going. I thought that was super smart. And then, like y'all said, you throw in all the little tidbits. The tie is super awesome. The girl's defecting, which is cool. It shows you that the Empire already has cracks, And so I thought that was good.
Was anybody that little laser thing on the bottom of the TIE Avenger? Did that remind anybody of like a portable Death Star laser?
Yeah.
Yeah,
super green
does.
like it.
Yeah, that's immediately what I thought of. I was like, I wonder if it's messing with the same technology, trying to put it on a ship. I don't know.
Yeah,
I just thought that was cool. It looked very visually very similar.
Yeah, it did. You're
cool.
right. So going from Cassian to here, he spends, I'd say, probably 80% of his story, 75% of his story in this forest, where he crash lands. And so we see him getting out of the tie, and the people are like, "We got you cornered," and they're like, "There's 19 of us versus 1 or 16," and they're like, "Did you need to tell him exactly how many?" Like, you can tell from the get go, you're not rolling with the employee of the month with this crew, and so they end up getting Cassian, obviously, but they split up really quick, and this whole time he's like a legitimate person in the rebellion, right? Or what will eventually become this rebellion, full-fledged. And there's a different league between him and these guys out in the woods that are trying to be these, whatever they think they're going to be. They say who they belong to at one point during their whole back and forth. Like, it's another little cell.
Yeah.
And Cassian's like, that person's dead now, right? Like he tells them they're not around anymore. I think Cassian does. Maybe one of the rest of them do. But it gives you that clear cut, like, yes, there are more people who are into this whole thing that don't like the Empire, but they're not all on the same level. I just thought it kind of gives you that, like baseball, you've got the major league, you got the minor league, you've got different levels of the minor league. Like, they're way down there, and Cassian is like the Atlanta Braves, essentially, or the New York Yankees of the rebellion. He's the real deal. And so I loved that stark difference where he's like, hey, y'all might need to save some of this water because you don't have anything. And like, hey, there's probably something out here to eat, right? And just little steps to prove that he was legit throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. I thought
Kevin.
I actually have one thing, if you don't mind me.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Back to the TIE fighter. And this might be them, because they always say that Lucasfilm is cherry picking from Legends. Maybe this is something they came up on their own, or maybe they did draw from another game. But there's a game from the 90s it's a sequel. It's called Rebel Assault 2. And in that game, your character doesn't really have a name. It's just Rookie 1. He's new to the Rebel Alliance, and you're sent on a mission to steal a TIE fighter, and it's called TIE Phantom, and it has a cloaking device because the rebels heard about it, and he steals it so they can study it. So I was wondering, I wonder if that's gonna come in.
That would be cool.
Yeah,
were those
interesting.
Yeah.
Were those games made by the same people that did like the Rogue Squadron games on like the N64?
Okay. You mean Factor 5? No, but it's all LucasArts though. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. I wasn't sure.
But it was a fun game though. But I was thinking of that game too.
That is neat. So Kevin, what did you think about the Forest People arc? They're on Yavin 4.
Yeah.
Like, we learned that they're on Yavin 4.
I do wonder if this was intentional, because this group is like a little more like classic Star Wars, like just kind of the bumbling comic relief aspect that we sometimes, and I do wonder if that was intentional with some of the people, previously being like, this doesn't feel like Star Wars,
Too serious.
Yeah, it's I didn't mind it, but I do wonder if like that was injected because of that, because it felt very different from anything in season 1 to kind of have these bumbling guys out there who were clueless, to say the least.
Yeah, I don't know about. I mean, that would make sense if they did try to like add a little levity to it, like just to, it's super critically acclaimed at this point. Everyone's talking about it, so maybe you're just trying to draw like the casual person in really quick,
maybe.
And then once you get them in, it's like, okay, here's the serious stuff. I don't know if that's what they were doing, but it certainly could work that way.
It struck me as different.
It was goofy, yeah.
I thought the most interesting part about this sequence is, it's not super interesting for Cassian. He's just kind of hanging out for most of the time.
Yeah.
Tied up.
But, for this whole arc, like his primary antagonist is not the Empire. It's this other rebel cell. Like, they're supposed to be the good guys, and yet they're the ones trying to decide, are we going to kill Cassian? Are we going to keep him alive? Can we use him? Like, is he of any value to us? And so I find it interesting, if you really go back and look through this arc, the Empire itself is not really a big force throughout this arc. It's all the things going on with all the people. And so I just found it interesting that like these are the good guys, but they're pretty awful. They're not good people. Like they turn on each other and start murdering each other. And so I do find it interesting that for a show that is very much about this authority and this empire and this rebellion that's trying to rise, that this whole first arc really focuses in on just messed up people who are supposed to be the good guys sometimes.
I like that.
I thought that was really interesting. And I think it's accurate, right? Like just because they're the good guys doesn't mean they're good people necessarily.
They don't have it all together by any stretch.
Not by any means, right? And these are not the people you necessarily want on your side, but it's who's there.
It's who you got.
I thought that was really interesting to kind of show that, because Cassian, like for most of this arc, it's not him against the Empire; it's him against the rebels, which was an interesting choice.
Yeah,
I thought what I liked about it is because when we're in the original trilogy, the Rebel Alliance, and when we see the original trilogy, it's just this big group of organized rebels. We're like, yes, it's the heroes, but obviously they're gonna have their struggle. I mean, there's rebels all over the galaxy, and they're all gonna have their own groups, their own cells, and they're not gonna know who to trust. And when somebody shows up in a TIE fighter in a TIE pilot's outfit, they're gonna be like, we trust you. We don't know
he's the Empire.
Yeah, you're here to kill us or whatever. So I thought that was really interesting. So I like that. I like that part of it.
Yeah. And another thing I do like about this gang of whatever you want to call them, I mean, we call them rebels. I'm not even sure what they are, but I guess they more closely align there. And it was annoying, but at the same time, like they've made this some type of honor code where they play that rock paper scissors to like settle whatever the score. Like they're shooting each other before, but then all of a sudden it's like, hey, we got to settle it. And I thought that was like so out of place for Andor, but at the same time it's funny to see like, okay, they can't feed themselves, they can't really do much at all, but they've got this honor code system down, and while they're doing this, Cassian's like, I feel like his character on the inside is like, you gotta be kidding me, and that's when he walks off to go get the TIE fighter, is when they're like stuck in that little game.
I had forgotten about the Star Wars rock paper scissors. That was funny.
That was really fun.
It was the perfect spot for him to escape. So I'm like, I like that. Okay, he's got to get away somehow. So they just throw in some random thing that's like, that's probably the most polarizing thing of the episodes, right? Like, as they throw in the rock paper scissors, and he just walks off and steals the TIE fighter with that. So
it was funny. I didn't expect it, but it made me smile. I'm like,
it might
you have to do.
Some people the wrong way who take the show too seriously, but I thought it was great because you think they're building up to this duel, right? Like they're going to shoot each other or something, and then they just go into this ridiculous like child game.
Right.
I thought it was great.
But as you guys said earlier, I think it was just a way, with the opening action sequence with the ties and then the bumbling rebels. I think it was their way to like, because it was just really serious and a slow burn for the first 3 episodes of last season. Right. So maybe they're trying to like, we got to get these other people in. We got to lock them in.
And the other aspects of the storylines we're going to touch on, they were like very serious stuff.
Yeah.
So it's almost interesting
Heavy.
that Cassian's story turned into the kind of easygoing part. But Cassian, he gets off, and he gets off the planet, and as he's leaving, we see the temple, right? We see those Yavin 4 temples. We see Yavin, cool. The big burning planet, and so you're like, oh, that's where he is. And so eventually,
that was awesome.
It's really cool because eventually I think he's probably going to be like, hey, I've got this place we can go to that there is nothing there. Like, and the people that are there, we could overtake them pretty easy if we needed to. So he's going to bring, I think, the Rebel Alliance back to Yavin. And I mean, we know they're coming back, but I think he's going to be the one who kind of interjects this whole idea of, hey, I know a place we can go that nobody knows about. So that's pretty neat that's how we're going to get this little canon of Yavin 4. I didn't expect them to give an origin of it. I just assumed, okay, this is where they're at. Like, I didn't need that.
They'll just
but
be
it's
a
cool
base there.
Yeah, that's all I thought. Yeah.
Like from location to location because they keep being tracked or something.
Yeah, so I think that's fun that they threw that in, and obviously we're going to get more on it later in the season, so it's still going to tie back to this goofy little opening sequence. But he goes from here and he gets out, into hyperspace, or he gets out into space, and then he's talking to what's Luthen's aide. That's like, she's bad. Who is she? She's like so straight faced.
Is her name Raina or something?
Her name right now.
Yeah, Raina. I don't know. I can't remember.
I think
Clea.
Is it Clea? Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, but she's
cool. I feel like I should
he's
know
talking
that.
to her, and she's like, "Hey, all the comms are jammed or something. You can't get in to anybody." So he's just like, "I'm going then." So he goes there, and that really brings us in to the Ferrix Survivors story because he's going to rescue them. So we'll probably tie Cassian in at the very end of that because he honestly doesn't have too much to this other than how it affects him at the end of it. But we get and there's the people on Ferrix, or the Ferrix Survivors are on Mineral. So we've got Bix, we've got Will, we've got B2, and then we've got, remind me of the other guy's name.
Brasso.
We have Brasso there. So they are all on Mineral. They're hiding in this like a wheat farming area is what it looks like. And there's a family there keeping them, under wraps and everything. But there's Imperial inspections coming, and they don't want to, get discovered during these Imperial inspections. We learn the Imperials are pretty slimy dudes anyways. And then they get double crossed. And that's where, during the inspection, they get double crossed. A lot of the action picks up there, a lot of tension. And then Cassian shows up to save them. So let's talk this arc. Kevin, what did you think of it?
I love the planet. Like, one of the most peaceful, like visually appealing places. Just the fields for miles and just that bright. Like, I love the look of the place. I think it's such a cool looking place. And I feel like it fits. Like they're there. They're trying to rest. They're trying to recover. But there is like an unease that's over everything. Right? It starts with Cassian not getting back on time, and then they learn about this census thing that's going on, and so this peaceful place kind of has this thing lingering over it where it's going south eventually, and you're just kind of in that waiting game to see how it happens and what happens, and so. I liked that we got a lot from these characters because they were used sparingly in season 1, and I really like these characters. I think Brasso is a really cool character. I think he kind of fills in almost as like a continuation of Marva because they were close. He spent a lot of time taking care of her, and he's kind of here being the head of this, Ferrix family to an extent. And so in some ways, I felt like I could see from the beginning that maybe he was the guy that wasn't going to make it out of here. But it was a good arc. It was really good to give some exposure to some of these characters, and I feel like we're going to get to see more of them now, going forward.
Almost all of them.
Yeah, not all of them.
Fortunately,
Ryan, what did you think?
Well, to go with what Kevin said, man, Brasso is the first of many, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's going to be
each arc. I think we're going to lose. I was kind of surprised it was only one in the first arc, but I mean they got a lot of ground to go the next 9 episodes.
Plenty of time for people to die.
It was interesting that they showed Bix's, her trauma, the PTSD from all the torture she went through. That was interesting. That was a great. I mean, I don't like that. I don't like that it happened to her, but it was a great opening to
for her character.
Yeah, showing that creepy guy, and yeah, she was just having that freak out. Yeah, so obviously it's going to affect her whole life.
Right,
Yeah,
and it even
right.
builds on her trauma too. Like she's going to experience more throughout the course of this story.
Yeah, so scary.
She's really like I think if one thing from this arc that we see about her, because again in season 1 she's there for a bit, then everyone's gone for a while Cassian's away doing whatever he's doing in the first season, right? He's on that one planet with stealing the heist, and then he's in jail, and then we come back to them like and they're featured again. So here we get a heavy dose of Bix to start off, and we see not only is she dealing with the trauma that she had from season 1, plus more junk happening to her here, but she's also fighting through it. Right at the end of season 1, she's a shell of a human, and then in this season, it's almost like okay, it's been a year. She's holding her own now, and I thought that was I wasn't sure where we would find her in this season. So I like picking her up where she's still dealing with that, but also like she's smashing an imp in the face with a hammer and ready to roll. Right. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, and I feel like you can see a difference in her. At the beginning, she's still, I think, scared, but at the end, she's angry. Like when she's sitting on that ship, and I think this is what probably is going to drive her. I don't think Cassian probably wants her participating, but I don't think he's going to be able to stop her at this point.
She's
mad, right? She's mad. It's awful because when that guy first comes up, like you just know his type, and you're like, oh like just the I can do what I want because I have the power, right? Like that whole, and you just immediately start feeling sick to your stomach. It's and man, they didn't shy away from it, and it's some people probably have an issue with that, I think. It's certainly new for Star Wars, but again, like if you're going to make a show about what power does to people and the corruption of when there's no accountability for what people do, like people do awful stuff. I mean, you can't hide that. Man, so it surprised me with how dark it got. But yeah, Bix going forward, man, she's ticked, and she's going to be in a place where I think she's going to be pushing more than Cassian is.
Oh yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see that when we jump back into the next arc.
Yeah.
I like in this too, kind of where you were going is every like looking in the real world, because this show shades like a lot of truth to it, right? Like it does kind of like what George Lucas did. It takes a lot of truth about what can go on in the real life. So like if you look at all of the true like bad guy empires in the real world, they all have like a functioning kind of like this, right? Like they go around and they're gonna take because they can, they're gonna mistreat because they can, they're gonna do whatever is best for them. And we'll touch on that more with the empire portion, but it's bringing like little tidbits of truth into fiction, and that's where it makes it kind of it resonates, because like you can look back into the 40s with World War II and see like how the bad guys were operating. You're like, okay, this is how the bad guys are also operating in Star Wars, and there's that piece of realism there to that. You can go to the ancient world and like, man, they were ruthless way back then, right? So like I like how they pull a lot of truth into these things, and you see that on just a normal mundane world, right, that has the crops and the harvest. So I did like to see that in this story, but we did all know it was the inspection was going to be the foil and the whole deal for them. Like something's going to go bad there. And we knew Cassian was going to show up because they heavily pumped it in the trailers and the promos and things like that. So we kind of knew what was coming there anyways. But one thing that irks me, not in a bad way, but like I just wish B2 Emo would get to hang out with Cassian. Like he's so excited. He's like, they can't stop us now, and he's rolling just around.
Breaks my heart. Oh.
And then they're like, hey, you're gonna stay here with the people who ratted us out and sold us out to the Empire. You're staying with them. That frustrates me. Like just for the droid, not for the show.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Or B2.
Yeah, I was hoping I'm worried about B2 now.
Yeah, I was hoping it would be
How are they gonna get him back?
Right?
I hope they do.
Cassian's gonna get him back. He'll probably like.
Oh yeah.
Well, we're jumping a year. We'll have to talk about it later, but he's got to go back and get him. So, I don't know.
So, yeah.
Interesting to see. But yeah, so Cassian comes back. He saves him. Bix obviously is in a tough situation with the slimy guy and fights her way out of it. She like beats him up with a hammer, and then Cassian shows up. But then we have Brasso doesn't get away, right? So when they double cross him, he's the casualty. And I didn't think they were actually going to get him. And then just like at the very end, they shoot him on the speeder, I guess, when Cassian's coming through. Yeah. But again, first of many losses, and they did a good job, like y'all said, building it up to where it's like, oh, there is some emotion behind him dying now. So they did that in this arc, which I do like, that they kind of brought what was a goofy thing and then a peaceful thing into the most serious thing of the first 3 episodes. But anything else on this particular story? I mean, they escape.
I will say, I think, right before Cassian gets there, he kind of goes off on what's her name, Clea, about how he's frustrated. Like, he didn't know the ship. Like, there were these other people there. He doesn't know, and he's just a little too late to save his friend. And I feel like this is going to be a point of contention for him. Like somebody bungled this thing of him still in the ship, and now he wasn't there in time to save one of the few people he cares about. I can't imagine that doesn't put a little bit of conflict between him and Luthen at this point. And so I did think just him showing up just a second late was, I think that's going to bother him. And again, you see, he clearly wants to take Brasso with him, but he has to make that hard decision that
just leaves him.
I gotta go. I gotta leave him here. It was heartbreaking.
Yep. And when they ask him, like, where's he at? He just shakes his head, and they like he knows they gotta go. So I mean, it's another good story arc, within an arc of a story. They did really good with it, building up the emotion, closing it out. Are we good to move to Mon Mothma?
I think so.
All right. So Mon Mothma's story. We've got a wedding going on not Corellia. What's the planet?
Chandrilla.
Chandrilla. So they're on Chandrilla. Really pretty place. Looks great. Yeah. With a big political wedding for Lita. Is it Lita? Is that her name? Her daughter?
Yeah.
Is that how you say it, Lita? So
I think so.
It's her wedding to a person that, it's not exactly like they're in love or anything. I don't think kids. It's their kids, right? So it's a very political thing, and all of the big wigs, senators, things like that are there. A lot of influential people, and then Luthen rolls in, and they're like, "What's he doing here?" So it's going to be. There's some stuff to go down for the rebellion in this episode amongst all these very influential people. You get some. It's my favorite arc of the whole thing, because you get a lot of Mon Mothma conflict. Like, she's got to be the senator, but also she's in this rebellion thing. Also, her family's a bit dysfunctional, and there's just a lot. There's a lot going on there, and Luthen's involved. So I thought it was a lot of fun in this one, and the main thing being, they've got a rebellion going on, and they've got someone blackmailing them for hush money. And it's like, okay, daughter's getting married. We don't really want to do this. Also, we're going to get ratted out. And what do we do? And I thought they did a really good job building that up from start to finish.
Definitely. Yeah, I thought... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
You're always first. It's okay. No worries.
It was... I might agree with you. I think it is my favorite arc of these 3 episodes. It's just so fascinating. To see this world that's pretending like nothing's going on, right?
Not a thing.
Yeah. And I love what's her husband's name? Perrin?
Perrin or Perith? What is
like
it?
his speech at that wedding thing, where it's basically along the lines of, sometimes you just got to stick your head in the sand and ignore what's going on, right? Like, and that's what these people are doing. Like, all this going on around them, and they're just indulging themselves in their wealth and their ease. And so I love the conflict that you see there with Mon Mothma. She's just like, this isn't right. Like, this is what I'm doing right now. And using her own daughter essentially as a commodity, right? Like, I can use my daughter to buy what I need. Like, it's questionable behavior, right? And so
it's almost like she's a politician.
Even with Mon Mothma, who's supposed to be like eventually like this wise bastion head of this rebellion, she's doing some questionable things right now.
She's going to run the New Republic one day,
and you just got to wonder, like, is this the right way to do is it still the right thing if it just has the right goal? Can it still be the wrong thing, right? Like, I feel like there's some really good questions about this here with her story. This whole political thing is fascinating to me. I love it.
Yeah. This show, if anything, blurs a lot of lines on what the good guys have to do to beat the bad guys. Like
absolutely.
I mean, if you just look at history, there's a lot of stuff that goes on the good side, what people would deem the good side of battles, where a lot of bad stuff has to happen to get there. And this is painting that picture perfectly.
Yeah.
Ryan, what'd you think?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it too. I would say, out of all the stories, I would say Mon Mothma's was my favorite as well. And yeah, I liked how you brought out there was a lot of Mon Mothma. It's kind of like, I don't know if it's just this arc, but so far it's like kind of like 50-50, both Andor and Mon Mothma so far. You know that? Yeah, and I like that.
She may have even been more than 50. That was a large portion.
There was a lot
if you count Luthen time too.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and man, just I liked how she was trying to talk her daughter out of it.
Yeah,
and she just like her daughter just didn't care.
That was interesting.
And that was like, I don't have any kids, but I was like, man, that just pulled at my heartstrings. I'm like, she really wanted to help her daughter, and then all she could do is just throw back some shots and just dance.
Yeah. Too little, too late, right? Like, I feel like her daughter's like, you're going to ask me that at this point
now,
after you've put me through all of this.
Before.
Yeah,
it's almost like it's just for her own conscience, right? Like, that was a tough scene.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Because you want her to at least be able to connect with her daughter, and then she just kind of is like, nope,
can't even do that.
That was rough.
What is she going to lose for this rebellion, right? Like it's a lot. Did y'all like during like right after that when they do the ceremony, the little Easter egg? I thought to like the Padawan braid cutting, where she when they get married they cut her braid. I was like, oh, this is like they did that to Jedi Padawans, but I mean that may not have been what they were going for, but that's when you see a braid cutting in Star Wars, that's kind of what I think about. So
that's fair.
I was wondering. I don't know if I missed it, but in the first season she had both, but then she had one. Did they say why one was already missing? Is it because she was engaged? Because
I don't know.
Because the first season she had 2 long braids, but at the start of this one was short and the other was long, and the long one they cut. So did they mention why one was already cut?
I didn't hear
it.
Maybe
so. Yeah, I don't,
because they seem like a people very strong on strict tradition, doing things a certain way. So I wouldn't be surprised.
So I'm wondering if it had to do with like maybe the first braid was she's engaged, and then the second one, married.
That would make sense. Maybe it's in a book somewhere.
That's a good detail.
Visual dictionary or something. Yeah, but the main part of this story, outside of just Mon Mothma's conflict she's got going on, is her lifelong buddy had some bad investments, and now he is essentially like he knows what's going on, and now it's to the point to where, hey, I need some money, and if I don't get it from you, I had to get it from someone else, and maybe your information's worth a lot to someone else. And so there's that whole thing, and then Luthen keeps saying, what's his price? And the whole time, like, is there ever a dollar amount for Luthen when he keeps saying what's his price? Because once Mon Mothma says, I can figure out his price, he was like, I already know his price. And it's already, and she's like, I don't know what you mean, but she does. And he was like, oh, that's precious of you that you don't know, or something like that.
How good for you or something.
Yeah, how good for you. So Luthen is going to make sure
that's when it clicks for her.
Yeah, that's when she figures out that Luthen's not going to let this guy tell anyone anything, and we're not going to have to pay him. So she goes and she takes a few refreshments, and she does that dancing that we see in the trailer. And I thought that was a cool scene because her whole world's burning around out just right around her in the room, and she's just doing the dance that it appears everyone knows this dance. Like they're all doing it. It's a pretty good song anyways, whatever it is. It was catchy.
Yeah.
And so while the whole world's burning, she's just dancing around at a wedding reception. I thought that was kind of some poetic, styling to that. It was cool.
Yeah. The whole take home, like that's such an interesting part. What does he say to her? He's like, I'm feeling undervalued, I think is what he said. And then the way they close that out with him is they don't, we don't see it happen, but as soon as he gets in that car with Cinta, it's like, oh, Luthen's already got his guy here, right? Like it's happening. And it kind of brings in that little thing with Vel too. She's kind of always on the perimeter there, and she's not happy with what's going on here at this wedding with Luthen. She's none of it. And so I'm curious as to where she's going to be going forward, because that was really interesting.
Right. Well, I thought they might, like, the last Godfather movie or whatever, where the last scene is his brother that ratted him out finally gets his, when they're out on that fishing boat. I kind of thought that might be what would happen to him. Like, he's out with her and she was just going to turn around and, blast him or something. I didn't know, and dump his body somewhere. Maybe that is what happens, but we didn't see it on screen.
Yeah, but I agree with you. This end sequence is super cool. Like, we get another example of the good guys, the good guys doing something most would say is evil, right? This guy no longer is valuable to us. Well, obviously we kill him, right? Like, that's
now, in their defense, he became an adversary. He made himself an adversary or a liability, but. Yeah, that's not the Jedi way, right? That's not the good guy way of things,
right? Because
the Rebellion aren't the Jedi, because they win battles. The Rebellion does, so that's how
Did you guys like did y'all like the back and forth, like with that music playing between the dancing and the fields with the battle?
Yeah, I thought it was good.
Yeah, I like the difference there between like wedding party people dying. And then there's Mon Mothma, who's just like trying to escape it all. She's just trying to like numb it out.
And that's essentially the irony of that whole world, is there's a lot of junk going on, and we're just, again, heads in the sand. And that's what she does there. She puts her head in the sand. So I think we're probably good on Mon Mothma's story. Moving into the Imperial arc of it right now. So it's not the longest portion of story that's told. It's just here and there, but we start off with Krennic, just like there he is right there. I wasn't expecting it that early, but we get Krennic. We get our introduction to the Gorman massacre. We get Cyril and Dedra are a thing, and they have the date from Heck with his mother there, and we kind of pick up on where they are. And I loved the Imperial part of it as well. Like, it was so good. So they are going to need to milk Gorman of all of its assets, right? Until there's no more, or Gore, I guess, is the planet, right? Is it called Gore, or just the people called Gore? Do we know what the planet is called? Because if it's the Gorman massacre, would it be, of Gorman or the Gore? Because they say
the
both. Gorman. Okay, so because I know they say the Gore when they're talking about the people in the episode.
Maybe that's what the people are called.
Okay, so we got this planet. They're going to use it for all its resources, and they're like, hey, it's going to be a little unstable if we get everything we need. And the Emperor's whole initiative is for unlimited power. How awesome is that? Like, that's the line from Revenge of the Sith.
That. I was like, yes, that was so cool.
He wants unlimited power. And so the way they're going to do it is not necessarily what we would picture the Empire doing. They're going to do propaganda. They brought in these two fast talkers that are essentially going to spin the whole narrative in favor of the Empire, and they're going to get what they want, and everyone's going to be cool with it. And it's funny because we know it's going to backfire. Like, we know it's not going to work, but you're going to see how it's built up. That little informatic video that they were showing where it's like the spiders.
Spiders.
I thought that was so funny. And interestingly enough, though, Dedra's not interested in the propaganda. She's like, this is a bad idea. I don't want to do this. But Krennic is interested in what she has to say about it. And so we kind of get those walls cracking a little, where maybe she's not 100% jiving with the Empire, which, it's been building up to that. But here it's just like straight up, no, I don't want anything to do with this. And then you've got Cyril, who's got his new job now, and the other half of this couple, and he's just about preventing fraud, like almost like a noble thing, even if it's for the Empire. So, Kevin, we talked about a little bit about this today, but I think both of them they have a chance to end up good at some point. As far as all these Imperials, they're not really with all this that's going on.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think they end up probably more tragic than they do good.
That could be good for a second.
I don't know that Daedra is. I think she's good on this side with Cyril. I don't know that she's. I mean, she got quite a bit of enjoyment out of torturing Bix in season 1.
She's good in general, right? Yeah.
I think she's all in on the Empire, though. Like, I don't think she liked the propaganda thing. But what was what was her solution? Like something about having
making the rebels do something.
Yeah, essentially like it
Forget her
almost
exact
sounded like
words.
having people in place that would do something and make the Gormans look bad, like whether it's like bomb something, like that's kind of what like I can't remember how she worded it.
I forget exact quote, but it was to make the rebels do something to make things worse.
Give a clear cut bad guy,
Which man, that council at the beginning that sets you up for not where you think the rest of that arc is gonna go.
Yeah,
because then it just turns into a dinner party essentially.
Yep.
But I did like that section with Krennic. If you read Catalyst, so if you're going to read Catalyst, sorry, spoilers.
Books to read.
This whole unlimited energy plan, like that's how they get Galen in. Is they're like, hey, we're working on this project. All these worlds, they can have, essentially free power. These worlds that were ravaged by the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
But it's all a ruse for how do we power a super
Death
laser.
Star.
Like that's what they're trying to figure out. And so even still, like Krennic's telling these people they're in on it, but they're not, right? Like he's still not telling them what this project is for. And so, again, we see the Empire just using people as necessary, make them feel important. So I did like that scene.
When that's where it's going to the Death Star anyways, because why would weapons director Krennic be there for a energy meeting, right? So like the audience knows where it's going, but none of the people there know. Ryan, what'd you think about this whole Imperial arc?
I mean, I liked all the points you guys made out, but I don't know if I could include this, but I was really, really interested in just the whole Deidre and Cyril and his mom part. Like Deidre just took control. She's like, this is how it's going to be. Like, you're no longer going to control him. This is how it's going to be. And I felt bad for him when he went and laid down on his bed because he's just like, what do I do?
That shot was
where he's just laying over.
It was just like, man, you can't help but feel bad for this guy.
Yeah.
His mom's there and she's just trying to run the show. And Deidre's like, no.
I will run the show. No, that was so good. Yeah. And again, they put a lot of like realism into this world. Like I'm fortunate to have an excellent mother-in-law that's like not anything like this, but in the real world, this happens. Like dudes get caught in between a very powerful mother-in-law and then a wife who is also a very powerful person. And you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And that's kind of where he's at. So I thought that was really funny to watch.
Yeah, Deidre sees through it immediately. She's like, you treat him this way, so he'll come crawling back out of guilt, earning your favor. She's like, I'll make sure he talks to you, but this is going to stop. Like, I'm not doing this. That was great. Hey, but you got to give a shout out.
Yes. Okay. So there was a
blows
comment.
My mind.
Hold on. I think this guy may have been a movie critic or something who got to see the video. But we are talking, so last week, I'm pulling up YouTube right now. So last week, we kind of start making our Andor predictions, and we have a viewer who makes the call on exactly what we watched with this date scene. So, okay, so this is Anthony 2643 says, loved your predictions. My hope is that Dedra Miro has a date with Cyril and meets the mother from hell. And we said that would be great. It would. I said it would be super funny and uncomfortable. And last night I went and commented, Anthony, you're a genius. So
that's awesome.
Anthony, if you're watching this, the three of us just want to let you know you are a genius because
that's awesome.
You called it. Also, if you're a movie critic and just don't want to be outed for letting out a spoiler, you can shoot me a DM on Instagram. I won't let your secrets be known, but I would love to talk more. But yeah, shout out to Anthony on YouTube, who probably the only right prediction that's going to happen of anything we said.
Yeah.
Right there, he got it.
And what a great, it really was a great scene. Like, it was awkward. It was hilarious. It really humanizes Deidre because you don't feel that way about her up until now. She's very robotic. She's like a machine when she's working. So this brings her down a little bit back to earth, which was necessary, I think, for her going forward.
It did. Now tell me if you think this is correct, and I'm actually going to kind of reference back the other stuff, but I think this first arc gives us the rest of the story for all of our main players that we saw here, right? So specifically for the Empire, I think their whole story is going to be kind of bundled around this Gorman massacre, because it's leading us up to the Empire's downfall in Rogue One, because Rogue One starts the effect that gets us into the original trilogy of the Empire's downfall. So I think the Empire is going to be stuck on this one thing as far as their big story goes. I think it's going to keep building up to that. Mon Mothma's whole deal is going to be stuck between juggling these two worlds that she's in, and eventually I think it finds its head in the Gorman massacre, where she leaves it and goes all in on the rebellion. I think that builds up into there. I think the Ferrix Survivors, one, you're just going to see them get picked off one by one by one. Like this Empire's coming for him. You're in the fight. And then two, for Cassian, he's going to lose everything, which we knew, right? So you start off here, he loses here, and just the whole rest of this show, that's what's going to get him to the point he's at Rogue One. So I think this whole 3-episode arc sets us up for where the whole thing is going to go, which I think pretty good way to tell a story. So they do a good job there. Do y'all kind of think that's accurate?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I like it.
Yeah, and I think everybody's pretty clear charted except for Daedra and Cyril. They're kind of the wild card in terms of where we know where Cassian's story goes. We know where Mon Mothma's story goes. We assume Luthen's not making it out of this story because he's not present anywhere else. We know where he's
going.
But like this thing with Daedra and Cyril is such a wild card for where they end up. Like I have no clue. And I find myself more and more interested in Cyril because he's not a bad person. Like he hates injustice, right? Like this whole thing started because Cassian killed 2 people in cold blood, right? Like that happened at the start of Andor, and he's trying to investigate it. He's blind to a lot of stuff, but like he's not like a guy with evil ambitions who wants to take over and wants to use people. Like he's genuinely wants to do the right thing. He just is oblivious to what the right thing is. So I'm really curious as to what happens to him, because that's just a really interesting setup for this character.
I think they could sell out the Empire. I think they both could. So? I think they could completely sell the Empire out as the rift continues to grow. Or like you said, she gets force choked by Vader or something because she's not doing whatever they want her to do. And then, maybe he goes off the deep end because of that. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think this was good. This 3 episodes was good. And all of the critics and all this stuff, the articles and everything for the people who've seen it all, because there's people who've seen all 12 episodes, says true. This is easily the 3 weakest episodes of the season.
Which is wild.
Which, I mean, if these are the weakest 3 episodes of the season, then you're going to get, like, on your Rotten Tomato stuff, you're going to have so many 9.5, 9.8, 10s going on from here out. So I'm super excited for it. But we know a time jump is coming next. So kind of our predictions going forward, where do we think we're picking up with a year jump from this 3-episode arc? So Kevin, what's your prediction?
A year is a long time.
Yeah.
Right? Like it
is.
And before we get into this, that's just kind of crazy for me to wrap my head around, is we had this really quick contained story, and now we're just going to go a year and come back to these people. Yep. I've never watched anything like this. It's going to be really interesting as we go through these 4 arcs to continue this quick, really compact, intense story, and then skipping a lot of life. It's going to be interesting. So I think I feel like this is a pretty safe bet. I think we see Vix and Cassian in on something, on a mission together. I don't know where. I think Daedra is going to be stationed on Gorman. I think she'll have worked her way into Krennic's graces. And then I think you and I talked about this today. I think we see a lot more Mon Mothma in the Senate.
Yep.
But I'm not sure. She's either going to still be dejected or she's going to be driven. And I'm not sure which one we see of her when we come back to her. So I don't know, man. Luthen, I think, will be a bigger part. Luthen was definitely kind of a little bit backseated in this arc, which was interesting.
His story's an easy one to predict.
I think he'll be doing some things. So
Ryan, what do you think?
Maybe with Saul.
Honestly, I wasn't too sure, but I like everything Kevin brought out. Those are all great ones. Especially, it would be cool if they had like a really cool opening sequence with Cassian and Bix. of the first episode of
that would be cool.
the next year. That would be a lot of fun. But yeah, I like all those, honestly.
I think Empire, Kevin, I think you're spot on. I think the Empire is going to be all in on this Gorman thing until it hits the fan, I think. So I think they're there, and I think the whole operation is already underway, right? Like they are using it for all its resources. The people are already starting to get a little bit unruly, and you just kind of start seeing how bad the Empire is, but then you also see how they're spinning it, right? They're going to do the propaganda angle. So I think that's where they're at. I think that's a pretty safe prediction. Mon Mothma, I think she's back on Coruscant. I think there's a lot of politics, galactic politics to go on. Similar to season 1, though, where you've still got all the background stuff with Luthen happening, too. I think they kind of go back to that story there. And then the Cassian and Ferrix survivors. I feel like at this point, it's hard to say if they stay together or if Luthen has Cassian off on something else. I'm torn there. Or is there some other place for them to go now? Like, have they put them at some other safe house and Cassian's out doing Cassian stuff again? I think it's not like them to tell this story to where he always has to keep coming back and rescuing them. So that leads me to believe, they're probably with him. But I also don't think we're quite done with that whole TIE fighter deal yet either. You know, he's got to take it back, right? To whoever he's wherever he's taking it to. So maybe he's dropped them off somewhere and he's still going around in that. I don't know. But I'm not sure I'm sold that they're together, maybe. I don't know. Maybe they are. But I do think we lose at some point, wherever we get, I think we lose another person close to Cassian going forward. And then I don't think this is the arc, though, where we get the Gorman massacre and a lot of action stuff. I mean, obviously stuff will happen, but I think that's probably the arc after these 3 episodes.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Interesting.
Again, it's hard to predict because they're jumping a year. So really, there's not...
Does K2 show up in the next arc?
I feel like it's probably the back half, but maybe he does.
Think so? I have no idea.
I don't know.
I hope so.
I don't know. I bet they get B2 back in this arc.
That's right. We gotta figure out B2 too. That's
I bet he shows back up. That's my prediction. I bet he's back with him. So that's where we're at. Next week we'll talk it again. We'll have 3 more episodes to talk through and try to guess where it's going from there. But we kept this under an hour, which is pretty awesome. So
we talked a lot.
Yeah,
a lot of stuff.
Little bit of a bonus content to look for next week. Kevin and I are gonna go watch Revenge of the Sith this weekend.
Me too.
I'm bringing my camera. We're going to give our quick review of Revenge of the Sith.
Like an outside of theater review?
It's going to be a sarcastic review as if we've never seen it. But if anybody watches this, they probably didn't watch the podcast at this point, so they're not going to know. So that's we're gonna have a little bit of fun with that. But
I was going to do something too when I get out.
Yeah,
nice.
You should.
That's
you
cool.
should.
I like that.
So we're going to go have fun and watch that, and then some more Andor a few days later. So thank you guys, as always, for joining. Audience, thank you guys for watching, and we'll be back to talk 3 more episodes of Andor next week.